G'day everyone and welcome to episode 137 of the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast, a betting preview of UFC 266, headlined by the featherweight title fight between Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. Today I am joined by ex MMA fighter, smart sports trader, and maybe later we'll be joined by the great Jonas Gjelstad. You never know.
Surprise guest there.
What was that, sorry?
A surprise guest, Jonas. Just pop up whenever, we're not sure.
You never know when he's going to pop up, so we'll see how we go. Quiz question for this week, mate. Who was Ortega's first opponent in the UFC, and what was the result of the match? So really testing all those brain cells that you might have lost from all your concussions you've had from fighting. No, I'm joking. Hope you weren't fighting back in 2014, mate, because that's how far I'm taking you back. All right, mate. Today we're going to go through the three main fights on the card. So we've got Diaz, Lawler, Shevchenko, Murphy, and Volkanovski Ortega, of course, and then. Before that, we are going to cover four of the fights outside of those three main fights. So, mate, you've got three bets. I've got one, but I mean, you kind of share the same opinion as me on my one. But let's get kick-started. We'll throw over to you and go Turner versus Medic, and I'll get the odds up on the screen at the same time.
Yeah, so I really like this bet. You got Jalen Turner versus Uros Medic. So Turner's fought a few times in the UFC. He's really tall for the weight class. He's like 6'3". He's got a 75-inch reach, so he's really rangy. He's a good striker. He kind of models himself on Anderson Silva, so he kind of he doesn't fight at a super fast pace. He kind of looks to counter and use that range advantage that he's got, but he's got some more unorthodox kicks. He's got really good grappling as well. He showed that in his last two fights. He submitted Brock Weaver in his last fight, and then he had a ground and pound stoppage before that against Calvillo. And his losses in the UFC have come against pretty good competition as well. He debuted against Vicente Luque, and he fought up a weight class, and he lost in the first round. But he showed some flashes of his striking in that fight, and he's also lost against Matt Frivola. But outside of that, he's looked really good, and he's fighting against Uros Medic, who's 7-0. He debuted in his last fight against Elon Cruz and KO'd him with a flying knee, I think it was, and followed up with shots. And he's training out of King's MMA now as well. He's been finishing everyone pretty much in the first round, though. He's got like 6 first-round finishes and 1 second-round finish. But he does look wild at times to me. He comes in and he does swing and he does move forward. And with that range disadvantage, I think he could leave himself quite open in this fight. And then you've got the experience advantage as well for Turner, which is quite big. So I don't really think Medic should be the favourite here. They've got him at 1.8, and I would kind of flip that over, and I think that Turner should be the one that's favoured in this fight. So, I think you can get best odds 2.05 on Turner, and I think that's a really good bet.
Yeah, 2.05 at Sport Nation there, but yeah, you can still get evens at just about every bookie, as you can see on my screen here. I think you messaged me about this one earlier in the week, and I think it was 2.1 or something like that earlier in the week.
Yeah, so it's slowly coming in.
Yeah, slowly coming in. All right, nice, mate. We should get some decent CLV there. We love our CLV over here. Moraes and Dvalishvili odds for this one. I've just got the method of victory markets, but I believe Moraes is around 3.2 and Dvalishvili around that 1.3, 1.4 mark.
Yeah, so this should be a pretty high-level fight. Marlon Moraes is coming off the back of 2 KO losses. He got KO'd by Corey Sanhagen and Rob Font in his last 2 fights. But he's a very dangerous fighter. He's got power in his hands. He's got really fast kicks, really powerful knees, and he's a submission threat when he hurts guys. It wasn't too long ago that people thought he was the best guy in the division. I mean, when he fought Henry Cejudo, he was favoured against Henry Cejudo, and he was seen as like the next big thing, really. But things change very quickly in the UFC, and he's fighting against Merab Dvalishvili, who's a bit of a cardio machine. He's got really good output. He's very big and strong for that weight class as well. He's got good wrestling, and he's a tough style matchup for Moraes. He can probably, Moraes has got gas tank issues, and we've seen that, and Merab's going to test that. But I still think that Moraes is a dangerous fighter. Even coming off these 2 losses, I think he's going to know that Merab's going to look to outwork him. But he's very capable of finding a finish here. So I just think there's a bit of recency bias with him coming off 2 losses, and I think Marlon Moraes to win inside the distance at 5.5 with Bet365 is a really good bet. I think if you can get 5 or above, I'd snap that up. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, considering I'm just looking at the market here, you get 5.5 at just about every. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong market here. No, I can't find it. Maybe double chance I'll get that up. But
yeah. So on Odds Checker with Bet365, it says it's the KO market, but it's not. It's the it wins inside the distance market. So it includes submission, but on Odds Checker it doesn't say it's submission for some reason. But you can get 5.5, or you could earlier today anyway.
Yeah, no, terrific, mate. I agree. I mean, Moraes is a beast in the first round, but he's pretty awful after that. So I mean, maybe if people out there who want to just go for the round 1 kind of props, I've got no idea what the prices are, but that could be another angle too. Because if you're Dvalishvili being a cardio animal, mate, you wouldn't fancy his chances heading into the 2nd and 3rd rounds. So maybe that's another way for people to approach it. I've got one here: Curtis Blaydes, Jairzinho, Rozenstruik. We talked about this briefly yesterday. I will get the odds up on my screen. I'm not sure if it's moved in or not because it did slightly yesterday. The play here is Blaydes by KO. I see you can still get 2.25 at Sky Bet, which is pretty decent. I took 2.3 yesterday. I'm not. I mean, I've never really rated Rozenstruik that heavily. He seems like just your standard heavyweight who's basically got not too much wrestling, not too much grappling at all. He's a decent striker. It's not like he's a. I mean, I'd say he's probably more technical than someone like Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is, sometimes can be a bit hit and hope. But Rozenstruik, he's got some decent technique. But I think when it comes to Curtis Blaydes, I think has he already got the record for the most takedowns ever in heavyweight history or something like that? Or at least he's got the most. I think he got 14 takedowns, one fight against.
Was it Volkov? He took Volkov down a lot, didn't he? That was 5 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's probably arguably the best wrestler in the division. And Rozenstruik, as I said, pretty one-dimensional, just some decent striking. I think Blaydes will find it pretty easy to take him down or push him up against the fence and take him down that way. Make it a dogfight, mate. And I think the more he makes it a dogfight, the more it favours Blaydes, because I know we haven't really seen Rozenstruik that gassed at times. I mean, he's gone 5 rounds a couple of times, but he went 5 rounds against Cyril Gane, and that was a very slow pace. The Overeem fight, he did get put on his back a little bit, but I think when you're coming up against Blaydes, it's just it's another kind of level of cardio you're going to have to exude. So I've got a TKO victory here for Blaydes from exhaustion plus ground and pound. And even if it stays on the feet for elongated periods, I mean, Blaydes should have kept it on the feet against Derek Lewis. He was having success there. As I said, Rozenstruik's probably a bit better on the feet than Lewis. Maybe he's got less power, but I think even if it stays on the feet, I think he's got a chance at clipping him there too. So I took Blaydes KO at 2.3, but that's come in a little bit. I'd still be happy to take maybe 2.25 or maybe even 2.2. You've got a similar kind of bet, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've got Blaydes inside the distance, so I'll just cover the submission just in case he decides to go for a submission, which he hasn't done. But I've got 2.15 on PokerStars, so that's not too far off the KO line, and you can get 2.1 with Bet365 as well. But yeah, like you say, he's got a huge advantage. I mean, his money line is 1.35, and that's based on his huge grappling edge. So if he does use that grappling edge, which I think after the Lewis fight, he probably is, maybe he might be a little bit more tentative after getting knocked out. But like you say, he was looking pretty sharp on his feet, actually. That was the best striking we've seen from Blaydes. He was landing leg kicks. He was kind of in and out. But Yeah, when Rozenstruik's been on his back, like in the Overeem fight, he didn't really show much at all. And Blaydes is really nasty from the top. He's got really good control, and smashes guys with those elbows. Like he messed up Overeem really bad. And I think he'll do the same to Rozenstruik. So, over 3 rounds, you fancy him to land a few takedowns, not even just one. And then when he does get the takedown, he's gonna get some strong position. So, anything above evens, I'd take that. I think that's good. I think it'll probably close like 1.8, 1.9 as well.
Yeah, I really rate Curtis Blaydes. I think there's like a top 4 in the heavyweight division, and everyone, and the ones that come after that are just. I mean, maybe you could include someone like Volkov in there, but I think those top 4 like Blaydes, Miocic, Garn, and Ngannou are just pretty far ahead of everyone else. And I'd love to. I mean, Blaydes has just got it wrong a few times, hasn't he? He just gets clipped, and it's a shame because I'd love to see him fight someone like a Stipe, a Cyril Gane. So I think he's a good fighter, mate, and his striking's improving, but he just keeps getting clipped, doesn't he? The poor bastard.
Yeah, I mean, he's been given Ngannou twice, and that's a rough ride for anyone. And then that Lewis fight, I mean, I'd still favour him in a rematch. I'd be pretty happy to take him. It'd probably be like 1.5, 1.6. I'd snap that up. I just think it. Yeah. He just ran into a big shot, which can happen to anyone, and unfortunately happened to him. But yeah, I thought we might get a bit of a better price on him really after that. But the market's still showing him quite a lot of respect, and I think he'll get the job done quite easily if he doesn't catch something big again. Yeah,
and the money line here, you can still get 1.33 at a few bookies. I think that'll close closer to 1.25. I mean, I'm not, people don't tend to like to back such short odds, but I think if you still like a bit of CLV, I still think that'll close a lot closer to 1.25 in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes, mate. Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Andrade, mate. I'll get the odds up on the screen. I've once again gone to the method of victory markets, but you've got Andrade 1.4 at Bet365, Calvillo as high as 3.25.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out a bit of an outlier really that I saw earlier on, and it is in the method of victory market, and you can see, is it still Paddy Power, Skybet and Betfair all have Andrade to win by KO at 3.5, and that's a really good price. You can see it's quite far above what everybody else has got. And yeah, Calvillo, she's pretty good. She's kind of decent-ish everywhere, but I don't think she has the strength really to take Andrade down. And she doesn't have too much pop on her punches either. So I just see Andrade getting close. She's got really good body shots. Like she finished Duke Hagen with a really nasty body shot. And I think she'll just rip shots. And I don't think Calvillo's even got much of a reach advantage over Andrade. So as long as Andrade is, still mentally there after Shevchenko beat her, and she's still as tenacious as she usually is, I would take that price if you can get it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is there a minimum price you take on that? Because I am assuming that price is probably going to go by the time this comes out.
I mean, I kind of just like that because it's a big outlier. I mean, I can't get on it myself. I just wanted to point it out because there's probably there's got to be a few people out there that've got either a Betfair Paddy or a Skybet account. I might be able to get like 20 quid combined on all like limited accounts, but it's not much really.
Gee, you're a good bloke, aren't you, mate? You're finding out lies for the people out there. You're a beautiful man. All right, that just about wraps up the fights outside of the big 3 fights. So, mate, we'll move on. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. I mean, mate, who would have thought we'd ever be talking about a fight like this? It seemed Nick Diaz was, well, I'm not dead and buried, but it just seems like he's never going to fight again. I'll get the odds up. You've got Robbie Lawler, you can get as high as 1.91 in a few places. Diaz, you can get 2.04 there at SBK. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em fight. Diaz returns to the octagon first time since his loss to Anderson Silva in 2015. I know that's now been reversed as a no contest, but yeah, he did lose by decision. And Lawler comes into this one on a 4-fight losing streak. I guess the biggest question is, around Diaz. Like, what are you, a fighter that hasn't been in the octagon for 6 years? We know he's a decent fighter. It's pretty obvious his strengths and limitations overall. But how do you see him coping with 6 years out? I guess keeping in mind that this bloke is probably one of the fittest guys to ever embrace the octagon. Him and his brother Nate are cardio kings, mate. They're freaks. So yeah, overall thoughts.
Yeah, well, there's just been some new news on this fight as well. They've moved it up to 185 apparently, at the request of Nick Diaz. So don't know if that's a bit of mind games. If Diaz kind of was planning to do that all along, he doesn't want to. He's 38 years old now. Maybe he doesn't want to cut that weight. So yeah, that's the kind of new news. But like you say, he's not fought for 6 years, which is kind of odd in a way because that is a very long layoff. And he's missed kind of his prime years as well, to be honest. He's 38 now, so it was 32 when he decided to kind of have a semi-retirement, and he's missed a lot of his prime years. So there's going to be questions like, is he going to come in rusty? How much does he really want to fight? Is he just kind of taking the last payday because he knows he doesn't have many years left, and he just wants to get a decent payday and kind of live out the rest of his life on that, because he has talked about not really enjoying fighting. In interviews and stuff, he's talked about how he likes the training and stuff, but the actual fights and the interview process and stuff like that, he gets a lot of anxiety over that. So it's a really interesting fight for me. I mean, Lawler's the one probably with a bigger motivation, coming off 4 losses. That guy is a fighter. He has been active, and Diaz beat him in the first fight all those years ago. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I've gone kind of back and forth on it, but I couldn't really back Diaz just because of the layoff. You can talk; he probably will have a cardio advantage, like you say. He's very fit, but he's not been training to fight for the last 6 years. He's probably still been doing jiu-jitsu, still been doing a bit of boxing and stuff, but has he really been developing as like a martial artist? Whereas Lawler's been fighting Colby Covington and Woodley and top level guys. Even Magny's a very good fighter. So I think I do favour Lawler here. Kind of the bet I've looked at is taking Lawler to win by KO at 4. And the Diaz brothers do have these legendary chins, but you've got a 6-year layoff. He's a guy that cuts. He just cut up in fights. It's likely to be a 5-round standing fight. Lawler's still got big power even at 39 years old. And Diaz is pretty hittable as well. He's kind of relied on that durability throughout his career, but he has been stopped by cuts before. It's not something that'd be new. So yeah, I quite like that angle if you're looking for a bet. I don't think it's like a huge value, but if you want to bet on that fight, that would be what I'd be leaning towards.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. What do you think about this whole fight has just got like soft factors written all over it. Like there's so many there's nothing like imprinted in this fight where you look at. It's hard to there's so many different things you can look at rather than just the X's and O's of a fight. The layoffs, how the now they've added in the weight cutting thing. So it's just like, let's start with that. The fight being moved to middleweight so late in the piece. I mean, you could look at it and say, this was the plan all along. They've just announced it now. But I look at it and say this could be an advantage for Lawler, just because if it's coming from the Diaz side of things, he could just have, maybe not trained too much for this fight. And now he's like, shit, let's make it at middleweight. You could also look at it from the fact that, I would say Lawler's maybe the bigger bloke. He's certainly more musclier. I don't even know if that's a word. Muscular, maybe that's
muscular,
better. Yeah. So it's like this. That's going to help Lawler out long term in the fight, not having to cut as much weight and maybe being the heavier bloke. So, do you look at it the same way as me and say that's a little advantage for Lawler?
Possibly. Diaz could be coming in with like a slight injury as well, which is why he's not been able to drop the weight. Maybe he's not been able to get the running in. There's that possibility. It's just odd, isn't it? But kind of Nick Diaz has always been a little bit odd, hasn't he? Really, that's kind of part of his appeal, isn't it? But Yeah, I don't. I think that's why I lean Lawler in this fight. How can you bet on a guy that you're not seen for 6 years as well? It's
Yeah.
6 years is a long time. Who knows what he looks like when he comes out? He
Is
could
he
kind
not
of
a
just be a
fighter,
little bit
though?
flat. I mean, he
Is he
seems
not
like a natural fighter, doesn't he? But
That's the thing. It's like the Diaz brothers. Like I reckon, mate, they could come. He could fight in 10 years from now after a 15-year layoff, and he'd still be the same. I don't know. Like they're just. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's in his blood. I'd love to ask you, like, as someone that's fought in the past, like, what do you think about his chin? Do you think having because you can look at this from two ways, I believe. Like having 6 years off, he's probably taken less shots over 6 years than his previous 6 years before that. So his chin, might hold up a little bit better in that way. He's also very fit. And then on the other hand, he hasn't been touched for 6 years. I mean, I'm sure he's been in the gym and sparring every now and then, but what way do you kind of lean on in terms of how good his chin might be after a 6-year layoff?
I don't know, really. It's something that's hard to kind of quantify, isn't it? Because, like you say, he's not been through those wars that Lawler's been through. Lawler's been through a lot of wars, but his chin's, in the last fight and historically it has been very good. He's not really shown. I mean, Woodley put him out, but Woodley does hit pretty hard. So yeah, I mean, in a way, it must be good for your brain, I imagine, not to be taking those like minor concussions on like a weekly basis. That's got to be good for your long-term health at least. But also you kind of you do get conditioned to eating punches by taking them regularly as well. So you could look at that side, but it's something that's really hard to quantify. Really, I don't really know how you cap it, like how you.
No one likes a fence sitter, mate. Let's talk a little bit about Lawler, because I think he's a really interesting case, and I think when I first looked at this fight, I favoured Diaz, and I think it was just. I think it was all just basically narratives that you hear in the media, or I don't even know if I heard it in the media. It was just a narrative that I formed by myself, and that was like, Robbie's on a 4-fight losing streak, and like he got beat up pretty bad by Colby Covington. I'm trying to remember some of the other fights he had too, but even the Neil Magny fight, I looked that one back, and it was just like, yeah, he got out wrestled, which is probably not going to happen in this fight. But when it was striking, Magny looked a little bit frightened, especially at the start and in the second round too. Like Magny wanted to get this into the wrestling ASAP. I think he took maybe a few slight punches from Lawler, and he was like, no, I don't want any of this. And Magny's like, he's not a slouch on the feet. He's not terrible. I mean, it's not his A game or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think he's 38, Lawler, I think, but he's not aged that badly. Like he's been through so many wars. I think it's kind of incredible that he's not looking worse than he is now.
Yeah, he still looks pretty good, and he's gone to is it Sanford MMA as well. I think he's changed camps for this fight as well, so he's mixing things up a little bit. And for him, it's a legacy fight, isn't it? He's got a chance to get that win back. So I mean, Lawler's probably not got many fights left with his style, and at his age, he's probably only got maybe 2-3 fights left. So this is a big fight for him. And like I say, with Diaz, like question his mentality, and I think it's most likely he just wants a payday really, whilst he can still get it. So that's like the more we talk about it, the more I kind of lean Lawler. So
yeah, I'm the same right now. I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I think like you kind of just mentioned there, like the Diaz brothers have never been ones that are too concerned about wins and losses. Like it's not the be all and end all. It's about getting paid and putting on a show for the fans. So although putting on a show might end up, Robbie Lawler getting his face punched in, but it's not like if Lawler's won, it's not like he's about winning rounds, if you get what I mean. Like Lawler's almost an expert at winning rounds. I mean, he's won so many tight decisions against Condit, Johnny Hendricks fight.
Yeah.
Rory McDonald, he was kind of in a points fight with until he turned his world upside down. But we're talking ourselves into this Lawler bet, aren't we? I mean, Earlier in the week, I could get like 1.95 for Lawler, which I kind of wish I took now, just with that weight cutting thing added onto it. But
I think there's still 1.91 left. That's the best odds I saw. But you see, after that the weight change news, money has come in on Lawler, so it just seems like people are seeing it kind of a similar way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go out and say I'd take Lawler at 1.9, but I think you might get some. What do you reckon? You might get a little bit of what do you call it? Money. I mean, money just come in late for Diaz because his last name's Diaz. So
recreational money, I call it. Like
that was the money. That was the name I was looking.
Just kind of punters that want to bet. Yeah. But I think if you like maybe on Betfair or something like that, I think that's quite good sometimes just for big recreational
the whale
amounts coming in sometimes. The whale. Sometimes you do get like just a 10k, 20k bomb just coming through the market, and it'll probably be on Diaz. Yeah, so
it's probably Jonas, mate. For all we know, it's probably just Jonas.
It might be, pocket money.
Yeah, exactly. All right, mate. We really. We dissected everything in that fight. I'm really looking forward to now to be so interesting, and overall it's going to be a terrific fight, isn't it? So should be a cracker. Valentina Shevchenko and Lauren Murphy. I will get the odds up. Obviously, Shevchenko is disgustingly low. She's as high. You can get her at 1.09. Murphy as high as 11s and 10s, and maybe even a little bit lower than that. Murphy gets the title shot after a 5-fight win streak dating back to 2019. But as I've kind of just mentioned, she comes up against, arguably the best female fighter of all time. She's only lost to the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, twice. But I mean, those fights were very, very close. So, I mean, the easiest way to dissect this one is do you have any hope for Murphy at all? And like, how could you see her potentially beating Shevchenko?
Maybe Shevchenko sprains her ankle in the first round or something, and Murphy can hold her against the cage and get takedowns. But it's pretty slim, isn't it? She's outgunned everywhere, really. And I do like Murphy quite a few times. She's she's strong. She's pretty durable. She's going to fight for your money when you bet on her as well. She's not someone that looks to quit. So initially I was kind of looking at Valentina by Shevchenko just because I thought that Murphy's the type of fighter that might be able to gut it out. And sometimes Shevchenko does coast as well.
By Shevchenko, by the way.
Oh, did I? Sorry, I'm tired, man. My belly any sleep.
I'll take that too, Valentina by Shevchenko.
Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, sometimes she does coast, like against Liz Carmouche, and who else did she coast against? Jennifer Meyer as well. She doesn't always pull the trigger, and then she did come out and toast Jessica Andrade last time. So Shevchenko by decision. Sorry, is what I was looking at. Not Valentina by Shevchenko.
I mean, she's that good. She could knock herself out, I reckon.
Well, yeah, she could do. Yeah. But I did see it at 4 somewhere, but that seems to have disappeared, and now I'm not as interested in 3.5 and 3.25, to be honest. So it's a pretty tough one. I was looking at the over/under market a little bit as well, but not many books have that, so it's probably not worth mentioning. But if you get like over 2.5 rounds at like evens, I'd probably take that. But I think that's coming as well, just because Murphy is tough, and I think she'll get out the first few rounds. And then if Valentina's in the mood to kind of coast as well and not really go for the finish, then, she'll get through those 2.5 rounds quite easily, I think. But, yeah, they don't have it in odds checker. It's not a market that you tend to get with the European bookies for some reason. You get it with the American ones. And I think it's on Betfair as well.
Yeah,
but, yeah, it might be worth looking on.
Pinnacle will have it too, I guess.
Oh, is it? Yeah, so maybe on fight day, it might be worth having a look, seeing what the odds are, and if you can get like over 2.5 around evens, I'd take that.
How, I mean, for those people who don't know Lauren Murphy too much, would you, like, what are her, can you just explain, like, the best way to win, like, she could win the fight, or, maybe just explain her style a little bit?
Yeah, so she's kind of just solid everywhere. She's got pretty good wrestling. She's got fairly decent boxing. She's not like an outstanding athlete, but she's she's like a grinder, almost like a John Fitch type, I suppose, just not spectacular, but she'll gut through things, and she'll like I say, she'll fight for your money if you bet on her. So maybe she can make it a dogfight, get into the clinch, land body shots, go for takedowns, maybe get some cage control. I don't know, knee the legs, try and slow Shevchenko down as much as possible.
Yeah, okay. I've gotten up the Pinnacle odds, mate. You got, over under 2.5 here. So you can get over 2.5 at 1.862.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't take that. So I did see some like American books had it like 1.95, I think, earlier this week, but maybe it's come in. But like I say, you could post it up on Betfair. It might get taken. You never know. Yeah.
All right, mate. Anything else to say on this one? I mean, it's just one of those fights. It's just a shame. This division's just it's just one and everyone else, isn't it? So it's a bit of a shame. It's almost like there's number one is Shevchenko, number two is Andrade, and then like everyone else falls behind that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame now as well because like a few years ago, you used to be able to kind of back Cyborg and Nunes and Shevchenko, and you get like 1.2 on them, which was really good value because they are probably like 90% certs in a lot of scenarios and in a lot of fights, and that was a tactic I used to use quite a lot. I used to quite like betting them because in women's fights you don't get too much variance either. You're not getting like crazy knockouts and submissions against the top level women are pretty rare because they're very talented. So that was a good money maker earlier on, but the odds, I mean, Shevchenko is probably like 95% in this spot, so even at like 1.1 there is probably value. It's just that I'm not a fan of betting those odds really, and then you've got to kind of think about injuries and stuff like that as well. Obviously that's always and like DQs I suppose as well, you've got to factor those in, which it's going to be maybe 1-2% maybe. So yeah, just kind of stay away from those type of odds even though they might be a little bit of value.
Yeah. All right, mate. Let's move on then. It's just not too exciting talking about that fight. So we can spend a lot of time talking about this one because it's a cracking fight here. The featherweight title fight: Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. Volkanovski's odds are coming in a little bit. We can get 1.6 maybe in a few places. Brian Ortega as high as 2.5 in some places. Volkanovski coming off his first title defense against Max Holloway. I know a lot of people don't think Volkanovski won the fight, but he's still undefeated in the UFC. So he's, him and Holloway are, even if you defend your title against Holloway and it's a dodgy kind of decision, it's still pretty impressive. Brian Ortega has only fought once since December of 2018 in that victory over Zombie about a year ago. I guess the story out of that one was all of a sudden Brian Ortega has elite striking. He was very, very impressive against Zombie. Do we think that Ortega's striking has improved to the point where he can either match it with Volkanovski or, I guess, get the advantage on the feet here?
I don't think he'll have the advantage. I think he'll like the Korean Zombie fight was an interesting one because he rocked him pretty early on with that spinning back elbow, and Zombie was pretty much out after that. And I think he said like he couldn't remember the rest of the fight. So after that point, Zombie was kind of just kind of waiting on him and allowing Ortega to dictate the fight, and maybe that made Ortega look better because it went 5 rounds. Maybe it looked like he's kind of elite now, and that he's really good at dictating the range and stuff. But I think Volkanovski, as long as he doesn't get caught with something early, will be able to kind of put it on Ortega a little bit more. And we've seen in Ortega's previous fights that when guys do put it on him as well, he tends to struggle. Obviously, the Holloway fight's the best example where Holloway just completely drowned him. But even in other fights, we've seen him kind of be losing the fight until he would grab something like Moicano was piecing him up and getting the better of that fight until he, I think, he got a guillotine in that fight. So there's a few question marks. I mean, Ortega's changed his team completely, I think, since those days. So he's got this new team. He's got like a new strength and conditioning coach, wrestling coach. He's got specific coaches for every area. So it does seem like he's doing things right. And he's got natural power. And he's a submission threat everywhere as well. So it's going to be a really, really good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think the odds are kind of about right, to be honest. Like I do rate Volkanovski as well. I think he's quite underrated. But you look at the competition that he's beaten. Like obviously he's beaten Aldo, Holloway twice. It's pretty ridiculous, really. So you've got to favour him in this fight. He's more proven in the 5-round title fights as well. So it's just a really tough one for me. I think the odds are about right. I was hoping that Ortega will get backed in just off his last performance. I thought, he might get a bit more money because of that, but it's kind of gone the other way, which is interesting because Volkanovski is not like a massive fan favourite really either. So I think that kind of says something about where the sharp money is, and I think it's probably come on Volkanovski, to be honest.
Yeah, I still think Volkanovski could get backed in a little bit more. I just think this is like a pretty good stylistic matchup for him. I think Ortega in that fight against Zombie, he looked tremendous. But we're not talking about a Zombie from maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah, like you said, Zombie was pretty hittable in that fight. And I don't really see how this fight goes to the ground either. I mean, maybe it does, but Volkanovski, I mean, I can't remember the last time he was taken down. So I guess I can just see this being on the feet for the whole 5 rounds. And Volkanovski, man, he's a tricky puzzle, isn't he? Like you're bloody good when Holloway. I mean, I know he had success. Holloway had a success against him in that last fight, but I mean, it's not like it was, we're talking about edging rounds here. We're not talking about anything close to a blowout, and it was enough for Volkanovski to get a decision. So he's got dangerous leg kicks too. I mean, do you think he'll be able to get some of those leg kicks off on Ortega?
Yeah, I think he probably will, especially if Ortega tires. I think that they could become a factor. And like you say, if it goes to the ground, it's going to be, Volkanovski's dictating really whether it goes to the ground or not, because Ortega's never really been a huge takedown threat, and he's going to find it hard to get in on Volkanovski, who's a lot more shorter, stockier. He's got that type of build which is really tough to take down. Like guys that are built like that, it's very hard to get anything on him. It's not like Ortega's going to be able to get down and get a single leg or something like that. Volkanovski will be the one that dictates the grappling, I think. So it comes down to it being pretty much a striking fight, I think, unless Volkanovski decides to go to the ground. But I don't think he will unless he gets hurt. You're probably looking at a 5-round striking fight, really. Yeah.
I think Volkanovski is also just one of the smartest guys in MMA. Like he's so tactical, and you have to be that way if you're gonna beat Max Holloway. Oh, you wouldn't read about it. We've got an intruder here.
Here he is,
2 seconds. Let me see if I can hear you guys.
All right, maybe we should just keep going until Jonas can eventually hear us.
The anticipation.
I was, so I guess my thoughts on this is I think Ortega's best chance of winning is probably in the first maybe 1 or 2 rounds, maybe catches Volkanovski with something and gets a submission or just gets a knockout. I don't believe that if it goes past the 2nd round, I just can't see Ortega winning a technical striking fight with Volkanovski. So my bet for this one is, and I've already bet this, you can still get it, which is great. Volkanovski by decision at 2.5. I think the only way Ortega gets finished is maybe in the later kind of rounds, but I just don't see Volkanovski as one of those guys that's just going to absolutely lay it on to get the finish. And I think Ortega's striking is decent enough to kind of stay in the fight. So I think Volkanovski at 2.5 decision is bloody decent. So I've already bet that. I'd still take it at, maybe 2.35 if you can still get that in a couple of places. So I quite like Volkanovski by decision here. Jonas, can you talk now, mate?
Yeah, sorry. I had to change everything. I had to plug things in and out, and I was already very late. It was as normal. There's just too much on the schedule, and then you realize and you're like, okay, fuck, I need to sort something out now.
It's just unprofessional, isn't it?
No, it's not, but it's difficult when you have a bunch of things. So But this fight I also do find very interesting, and I'm surprised to hear you're so hype about Volkanovski against Ortega. Like, how do you think the COVID implications is gonna have any impact for Volkanovski? Because he's been out for a long time. Other people have had COVID and they're just gotten everything straight away. He's been out for a long time, mate, and it's definitely due to some serious COVID implications. That's the only reason why this fight hasn't happened. And
he went through a very tough case of COVID. When was his last fight? Like end of last year, from off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was a Fight Island one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so it might have been the year
against Holloway. Yeah. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know. I just think like Volkanovski's just if he was having serious problems with his cardio or his COVID kind of issues, like I don't see him taking a fight. I think he's too smart to do that. So I think if it was still playing on his mind, I think he could keep delaying this as long as he really wants, and they probably do like an interim title fight with Holloway. So yeah, I don't know, and it's not like, I don't know. Do you think Ortega's like a cardio beast if it gets to that point?
I just found him extremely technical in his last fight, and I was really impressed with him. And I thought for sure, I was like, I'm definitely going to be betting Ortega against Volkanovski.
Interesting.
So, but again, it's hard to say, and this is conspiracy as always from my side. But I just don't see that he's in tip-top shape. How long can you actually like postpone this? I think a lot of the fans is getting a bit sick of like a champion just postponing. So it's kind of like, well, if you're not gonna, you might have to give up your belt if you're not fighting anytime soon. And they just agreed on this date a couple of months ago, and it's go on and give it what you got. I'm not saying it's not going to be good, but it might not be 100%, is what I'm saying. I don't know what you think about that, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I've got some inside info in this fight, as I know one of Volkanovski's like good friends and ex-training partners. They both won a scholarship to Tiger Muay Thai at the same time, and they won it in the same year. So they're quite close. So I got to speak to this individual, and he says that Volkanovski is Volkanovski's in pretty good shape, and that he's kind of over these health scares, and that he should be 100%. But we'll see though that he might just be saying that. But yeah, my sources say that he's in good shape.
Okay.
I will add to that with Volkanovski, if you want something to go against him too, is this is the first time he's flown out to the fight quite late. So he only flew out on I think Monday or Sunday, 1 week before the fight. So I mean, it's still 1 week to get yourself in shape. So you might have a tougher weight cut. Maybe it's worth just seeing how he looks on the scales. If you want to look at some more soft factors. I mean, you got Dan Hooker. He's another case who's just terrible run into the fight. He's still, as we speak right now, he's still in New Zealand. So yeah,
and he's not allowed to train. I read an article about that the police is checking his own gym, which only he would be at, and is not allowed to use it.
Yeah, the New Zealand COVID restrictions are, they're crazy. So he could.
Why is he even fighting then? That's
well, he needs to. Here's the thing with Hooker Hooker couldn't even. He had to. I mean, the way the quarantine works in New Zealand is he had to book his quarantine to come back like months ago. So he basically told the UFC that I need to fight on this date, and if it's anything later than this date, then I can't fight, because if I can't come back in quarantine at that point, then I might have to wait. I wouldn't be able to do quarantine for like another year or something like that. So yeah, Dan Hooker's one is very much a case of he needs to fight now, or it could be another year before he can fight. So, but I mean, yeah, kind of getting off topic, but Yeah, I don't know, Jonas. I don't support you on this one, mate. Unfortunately.
Now, of course, I don't know
I'm
where
taking the inside
Volkanovski is.
info.
I don't know where Volkanovski is from, but I'm guessing he's an Aussie.
No, mate. No, he's not Australian, is he? No, I wouldn't have that kind of bias, would I?
Yeah, I know it's but so what was give me a quick sum up about your other picks, so I can go on the other side on all of them. And it sounds like that's what I'm doing here.
All right, we'll do a quick summary. So we've got, Ryan's taken Turner, who he still likes the price on him now. You got Moraes. Was it? Yeah, Moraes finish at 5.5.
Yeah, inside the distance. Yeah.
Blaydes. We've both got Blaydes. Or you took Blaydes inside the distance, but I've got Blaydes knockout at 2.3. Calvillo, Andrade. You got Andrade by KO 3.5. Diaz and Lawler. I guess we're kind of in the same boat here. You like Lawler KO at 4, but I'm thinking you could just back Lawler on the money line at 1.95 or more than that if you can get something like that. And there's no real bet for the Shevchenko fight.
There is. You can make 8%. No risk. No nothing. Like the only thing, if you're betting like low level fights, you're afraid of that armbar. Shevchenko is not going to get armbarred. She's not going to lose this on decision. I don't know if Murphy has the power to knock her out. Yeah, there's a chance of her stepping over and breaking I'm not going to compare it with the McGregor, but it's like you kick and then something happens to your leg or something, whatever, if that actually was the case or not. But it's I think even like I've learned, even betting Shevchenko at 110 is good.
Yeah,
we did talk about that. We did say that it's probably still value. She might break her ankle or maybe she gets disqualified or something. But yeah, she's probably still value. Probably get 1.1 on Betfair, I would think.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's a difficult card. It's a lot of fighters that you haven't seen too much frequently, and it's hard to know when they have been off for a long period how much progression. Because I do feel, especially now with COVID and all of these things, some people is just going to progress so much better than others. Hooker doesn't have the right. Well, he might have the right team around him, but he doesn't have the right setup in order to work out as good as you can in some of the gyms in the US. So it is difficult to guess, but you just got to sit ready and watch and see what happens and figure out who has the bad gas tank and see if that still is the case or not. As soon as you see tendencies.
Yeah. All right. Any other bets for you, Jonas, mate? For the whole card?
The only bet that was tempting to me was Ortega, and I'll be happy to do a little bet with you. Just betting against an Australian who wants to back an Australian. I don't mind that.
Happily, mate. What odds will you give me on Volkanovski?
We can just do whatever the medium price is on Pinnacle. Whatever that is. I go into...
Oh, mate, I've already backed him a couple of times already, so... You're going to have to give me a pretty special price to take another bet.
Okay, I'll give you a special price. A special price for you, my friend.
Oh, I love it.
163. 163.
Mate, I've already taken him at like 165, so it's not that exciting.
If you move the market, I'll give you 166 for $500. Okay.
You're a tosser. All right, let's get to the best bets of the weekend. Start with you, Ryan, mate. What's your best one out of everything we talked about today?
So I like Jalen Turner, 2.05. I think that's anything above evens or even evens is good. I think he should be about 1.8. So yeah, I think that's a good bet.
Terrific, mate. Jonas, Ortega.
Yeah, no, my best bet would still be Shevchenko. It's gonna win. It's gonna win.
All right, and myself, I've already done this, but if you can get something decent on this, I'm going full mug here. But I think all of these will close shorter. I've gone Blaydes, Ortega. Oh, jeez, Blaydes, Volkanovski, and Shevchenko, and a little parlay. I reckon the true odds on that is about 2.1, something like that, and I've got it with an odds boost, I might just say 2.44 at one bookmaker. So I think if you can get, anything 2.25, and above, I'd take those three in a parlay. I reckon Blaydes will get close to 1.25. I think Volkanovski could get close to 1.5, and Shevchenko, I mean, just throw her in there for a bit of fun. I think she could also close shorter than she is now. So we're going full mug, fellas.
Full mug.
I like it.
All right. You can find these terrific gentlemen on Twitter at SM Sports Trader and Jonas Gjelstad. And let's do a bit of promotion for Ryan's new service. Hey, mate, where can people find your new service? And maybe tell us a little bit about it.
No, it's just on the Smart Sports Trader website. So there's an area called the Smart Sports Betting Community, and it just covers my MMA betting, some Betfair trading. We look at plus EV casino offers, and then we look at like promotional boosts from bookmakers as well. So it's more aimed at people from the UK for the last two casino offers and bookmaker promotions. But the other stuff, if you got access to Betfair, then you'll be pretty good, really. So yeah, you can take a look. It's all on there if you fancy it.
Yeah, highly recommend for everyone out there looking to get an edge in sports betting and sports trading. You're a smart man, Ryan. So I think anyone that joins that service would be making a good choice, mate. Quiz question.
Let me steal the spotlight a little bit also.
Oh, you got some promotion to do, mate. You finally got a snooze sponsor.
No. So, I've been starting to stream a bit of poker with some of the guys that I live with. And we started 2 months ago. And 1 or 2 weeks ago, we set the all-time Twitch record in biggest score on Twitch. When the guy sitting behind me here, he's scored 600K, which is 150K more than Doug Polk scored for when he was streaming. But Doug Polk wasn't even showing his soul cards. So it was... we're on to a good start, and then the next week was a 200K score, and it's fun. Also trying to do a bit similar thing, just trying to create more content around what's life like as a poker player or a gambler in general. And we'll be jetting off to some exotic location, hopefully Australia, if they open up for a little bit of vacation. Gonna see me surfing with Alex.
Oh, mate. Imagine that content. Imagine that. There we go, game like this. Screw your 600K, mate. Millions, mate.
Yeah. And also, Overbet Express, if you Twitch, Instagram, all of the channels. So that was a bit of a self-promo there too. And, we do a bit of delay, but not 30 minutes as my appearance on this podcast was.
How much did Espen end up winning?
600 and something.
Wow.
600K. So
good celebration in the house, mate. Yeah,
well, we haven't really done much, to be honest. It's just been a lot of things to sort out afterwards. Prior to that, and then there's other things. It's been visitors now. My girlfriend's sister arrived, and her boyfriend. It's just so much to do. Also, crypto has been going off the roof, going up and down. So I'm trying to get involved in that space, and still got a lot to learn, and need to be a bit better with bankroll management when it comes to crypto. Because that shit is wingy. That makes my sports betting graph look like steady compared to this.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, okay. It's just been a bunch of things. So I'm planning in regards to leaving London now in a month. So.
Oh, it's in the books. It's ready to go.
Yeah, it is.
Are you
First
joining?
Up will be Thailand, though.
Okay. I was going to say, are you going to join Tiger Muay Thai or?
Well, I'm not gonna say anything, but if you are giving me attitude, you can feel the
Send me a
bright side.
location.
I've been working out with Ryan behind. I've been working out with Ryan for 2 years, so I know the grappling and everything. Now I just need to work on my kicks. And,
Where in Thailand are you going to?
So I think we're gonna start with Phuket, and then we're gonna go to Koh Samui and just go a bit here and there and see. Like
nice.
Start with 1 month each place and be open to anything after that. If it's Mexico, if it's other places in Asia, we don't know. Just gonna go and see.
I've got a house in Udon Thani, so you can go stay there if you want. My wife's alcoholic brother's there at the moment, and there's no internet either. But you're welcome to stay there if you want.
Kind of rely on internet though. No, where I don't know where about that is though.
Like the northern part, it's quite a nice area. It's got an airport. It's pretty nice.
It seems it's so many nice places there. Like you got Bali, Philippines, Vietnam. It's so much to see, and getting out of this office is gonna be nice. After it's been 3 nice years, but time to work on my tan also. As you can see, my face kind of look the same as my t-shirt. Kind of goes well together. Like you could actually separate Alex's face from his t-shirt, whereas with me it's difficult. So
need to get you to Australia, mate. Need to get you in the sun, mate. I'll keep the spare bedroom open for you, mate. It's I think it's right in your price range, mate.
But do you mind removing that Aubameyang poster from the spare bedroom?
Mate, if you come and stay in my spare bedroom, I will put any poster you want up, all right? I'll remove any poster you like. It would be an absolute honor.
Okay, cool. I will come, and I will educate your fiance a bit about how to treat Australian man, as you're not just a Swedish man, and you have different kind of values.
Oh, you're an idiot. All right, we've gone very off track here. I hope everyone's
sorry.
us. No, it's all right. I mean, people love listening about your life, mate. So I'm sure people are still tuned in. But this is the best part of the podcast right here. Quiz question: who was Ortega's first opponent in the UFC, and what was the result? I'll give you first guess, Jonas.
Ortega won. I have no idea who was fighting.
All right, and Ryan, your guess, mate.
Yeah, I guess he won by submission, but when I'm thinking about his early fights, I know Thiago Tavares, maybe Diego Brandao, they were quite early on, but I think he fought somebody else, but I just can't remember.
Terrific. I finally got both of you. It was Mike Della Torre. It was actually a rear naked choke submission. I believe it was inside a minute, but it got overturned to a no contest after he tested positive for drostanolone, which is a steroid. So Ortega is a steroid abuser, everyone. Just to let you know.
Oh my God. Stop it.
Only you could want to back an ex-steroid abuser, Jonas.
Okay, so if we're betting now and Volkanovski is losing, are you going to be like, but he took steroids like 6 years ago, the bet is a void?
Yeah.
I took Vitor Belfort last week, and he looked juiced to the gills in that boxing fight against the 58-year-old Evander Holyfield. So, yeah.
Did you look at the fight?
Yeah, I bet on Belfort because
same.
I knew it was very off. But
the movements, everything was very slow, but he looked well for being 58 also, I must say. And
he did.
Kind of the irony of that weekend, like early on that the same evening, there was a final in the US Open for females, combined age of 37. Then it was a boxing match with combined age of 102 years or something like that. And you're like, it's a lot of life experience. And when you take out probably wearing nappies for 3 years, that's 6 years, so 15 years when they've been grown up together each compared to the other guys. Okay, sorry, that was very off track again.
I listened to the promoter of Triller in an interview, and he was saying he thought for all money Holyfield was going to win. He was basically defending the defending the fact that he put the fight on, and Holyfield at 58 got absolutely ruined. And he was saying, I thought for all money Holyfield was going to knock him out and blitz him in the first round. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, it's a bit sick,
obviously,
really. It's not
obviously
nice.
hasn't followed Vitor Belfort's career very closely, and the fact that he might have been on a few substances, let's just say. So, yeah. Anyway, crazy times.
Okay.
I think that'll do it for us, fellas. Terrific chat. Next podcast coming up, we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, with the preview of the weekend of football. But thanks for listening. Please do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen to our podcast. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today on the podcast, more so the value betting ones, start a free week trial of Trademate Sports. Gents, pleasure having you on once again. Great to be talking about the great sport of MMA, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, fellas.